training needs to mirror the event that you're participating in. So these swim runs that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours long, you're not going to be doing a ton of high-end training, right? So therefore, to access those gears, they're not going to be there. So it's not going to feel comfortable. It's going to be awkward. It's going to feel clumsy. But part of training needs to, you do want to stimulate that system because it is going to help you. But it's just not going to feel good because you don't do it often enough.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 203 of the show. We've got a great one for everyone this week. Back on the show is none other than the elite swim and triathlon coach and founder of Tower 26, Coach Gerry Rodrigues. In this conversation, he shares his wisdom for nailing your off-season swim training, shares his favorite training tools, so it gets into gear. If you're a gearhead out there, you're going to love this, and so much more.
But first, training update. Hold on. Training? What training? It is the off-season. There's turkeys and tofurkeys and Christmas presents and all sorts of goodies and snacks. It is the off-season, so we're looking forward to going unstructured for a bit, but the swimming will continue, of course. It has to continue when you have the likes of one Gerry Rodrigues on the show.
Yes.
Looking forward to do that. It's still dark and cold, though, in the mornings.
Yeah,
still dark.
It always
and cold.
takes me about a month just to acclimate to running with a headlamp season. But that's that's what you have to do.
And you're up and you're seeing sunrises and stuff. I blew the dust off the old Peloton bike here. I fired that thing up, so I might be logging some bike rides there.
Do you need any like chain lube or anything?
Is there a chain on that thing? I don't.
Probably.
No, I'm all lubed up.
Okay,
yeah,
you're good.
2 Toms Extreme. Now on to this week's Shoutout.
Yeah, this week we're shouting out our 3 newest patrons on Patreon, Mara, Lisa, and Jarrett. Thank you so much for the support of our brand of super niche content, our sticker obsession, and
other randomness.
Yeah. It really helps, and it really, if anything, I always tell my wife, like, look, we have another Patreon person, so we have to keep the show going. We have responsibilities.
we have to, and we have to buy more stickers too, because we
actually need to buy stickers.
We do. We need to refill the coffers.
Yeah.
On the sticker coffers. Now for this week's Feats of Endurance. So this week's winners, is everyone that raced the Swimrun Reunion over the weekend. Special congrats to friend of the pod, Desirée. You may have heard of her. The queen of Swimrun herself. Amanda, Hugo, and Max for their stellar performances. We're just on first name basis with all these folks. We also have episodes with all of them.
Yeah.
We do. So go back in the archives, listen to that when you're on your headlamp run in the mornings. Also be sure when you're finished with your run, log it on to Strava and join the Low Tide Boys Strava Club. You can join swimrunners from around the world. So they train for stuff. Swimrun, turkey trots, the whole lot this time of year.
It's definitely turkey trot season.
Absolutely.
Or for us, turkey hike, which is our
It is coming up. We're a few days away. I have so I guess technically we are in taper for the for the Thanksgiving morning Low Tide Boys official hike. Now for a little bit of show business. So you should be fueling in the off season too, obviously. We recommend one of our favorite supporters, Precision Fuel and Hydration. They have a ton of resources specifically for swimrunners, and we swear by their products. We're using the whole line. Yeah, we even swear by their swag.
Yeah, swag's great, dude.
They got some great high-vis buffs, hats. Mm-hmm. I did see on the Black Friday sale, they look to be dropping their like bucket hat thing that they were rocking at Kona or the swimrun or the.
Can we talk about how Black Friday has no meaning anymore?
It has. The Black Friday stuff I've been seeing this year have been lackluster.
It's like we're recording this on a Tuesday. It's not Friday. Yet it's still Black Friday.
Their Black Friday's happening.
Jesus. Anyway.
We can...
sorry about that, everybody.
With that note, there will be no Black Friday sale for the Low Tide Boys. But you can pick up some great Precision Fuel and Hydration products. Use the code LOWTIDE23 or head to the show notes. There's a link over there. You save 15% off your first order. I have been doing just they had the 500 there, which is a nice little, I just use it for kind of my daily hydration, have one of those during the day, make sure, everything's looking on the up and up on the hydration piece. Mm-hmm. And then, I like the drink mix. I've been using that at swims as well. So even though you might not be jamming gels down, you can still, Precision Fuel and Hydration has plenty of goodies for you there.
For sure.
Now, nominations for swimrun.com's second annual awards are now open. Head on over to the website or click the link in the show notes to submit your favorite events, products, and personalities. Hint, hint. Nominations close November 24th. If you missed that window, you can still vote beginning on December 1st to select your favorite pool boy and other such categories.
There's a bunch of them.
I can't wait.
We're also judges, so...
We are judges.
Looking forward
We have
to
recused ourselves from any potentially conflicting...
Yeah, anything that we're nominated for, like Athletes of the Year, we're going to have to recuse ourselves, Chipper.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We've been recused. Now, over to our conversation with Coach Gerry Rodrigues.
Yeah, it was really great to talk with, Tower 26 founder and coach Gerry Rodrigues. It's almost embarrassing, actually, that it's been almost 3 years since we last had him on the show.
Yeah.
So make sure you check out episode 32 of the pod for our first conversation with him. Gerry is such a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we didn't waste any time. We peppering him with questions about off-season training, what he's learned over the years, what training tools he's stoked about, and so much more. We got into gear. We got into all this stuff. We talked about their online swim training program, which Chipper and I both did a few years ago. And, we loved it.
Yeah.
Happily recommend it to anyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really good because we know there are a lot of folks come into the off season and they're like, what do I want to do? I want to get better at running hills or want to improve my swim. And Gerry has some really great thoughts on that. And the way he structures that online program is top notch.
Yeah, I think in this interview, I'm fangirling pretty hard because...
we both were.
I think he's just... The way he thinks about it is just, hey, he's training for a very specific skill. So, in the conversation, he's talking about a lot of these swim programs are designed for people that are going to swim a maximum of like 40 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And it was just really... that was just really helpful... Just one of the many knowledge bombs that we'll be dropping during this interview. But yeah, thinking about it, it's like, understanding this is train for the thing that you're doing, training for the activity that you're. So Chipper, you're asking him about like, backstroke and stuff. He's like, yeah, that's great if you have time for it. But if you don't have time, how is that going to help you in a triathlon swim or an open water swim, which is just like such a great way to think about it.
Yeah, his advice is very applicable, and it just makes so much sense. And one bit that I did really appreciate was sort of how to, because I've been guilty of this myself. There's so much content out there for how to swim better. Not that any of it's bad or wrong, but
it's just
is it applicable to you? Are these people how to swim better in a pool or how to swim better open water? So the tips and tricks and recommendations that Gerry goes over are very applicable to Swimrun since it is more open water focused. Right. We also did give him a pass on calling it Run Swim
a couple times.
So
it's cool. He can call it whatever he wants.
He totally gets a pass. So we let that slide. But we want to let the listeners know that we did hear that as well. Now, without any further ado, and certainly don't mean to run Gerry's good name through the mud here with the Swimrun crew, but let's get into the conversation with Coach Gerry Rodrigues, founder, Tower 26.
He's a genius. He's a swim coach genius.
Gerry the Genius.
On that hill.
He's known Gerry the Genius, at least in some circles.
One circle.
The circle.
So we are ridiculously stoked for today's guest. He's a former U.S. and World Masters champion in both pool and open water. No big deal. He's an expert coach, an author, and founder of Tower 26. I'm talking about none other than Coach Gerry Rodrigues. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, great to be here, guys. Thanks so much for getting in touch. It's been a while.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. It's been a long time. We had you back on the show way back in episode 32, back in 2020. So we were right in the thick of COVID. You just released a new book, Triathlon Swimming, the Tower 26 method, which we, totally inhaled that book and found it super valuable.
Well, that's good. There were at least two of you in here because releasing a book during COVID was not the most sensible thing.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to ask you. I mean, it seemed like not the best time. Let's be nice about it. Not the best time to release the book. What's been the feedback now that the book's been out for a while and people are back to racing and so forth?
Well, I think due to our podcast and on the reach that we've had, you sort of have your folks that you've been able to educate and help, and athletes and coaches. So from that perspective, it's been good. I think the timing of the release, which we have no control over, that was a publisher's decision. It didn't work too well because everyone sort of went into hibernation. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if the book got as much press or publicity as it probably could have. So I think there's opportunity out there for folks to read and absorb content still.
Well, we'll be pushing it. We'll put in the show notes and stuff for for this show for sure.
Yeah, and we've been big fans of yours. Obviously, even after we chatted, Chris and I both joined up your Tower 26 online program, and we saw huge gains. And we did that for about 3 or 4 months, starting about this time last year, November in 2020. So a few months after we originally talked with you, and that's been a huge wind in our sails and a good confidence booster in the water and just in general in swim run. And we know now's the time of year when folks are the last swim run event of the year has been wrapped up. So folks, if you have now they're having, what do I want to work on? How do I maintain my fitness? How do I not lose? And hey, I want to make some gains in the water. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to do this? And that's why we brought Gerry on. It's pro.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm going to have to spank you just a little bit. The thing is, if it were Jim Lubinsky, he might enjoy it here. 3 months. I mean, you got to do the thing for a year. That's where the gains are.
It's true. Well, you know what happened is we ended up getting a coach.
You had a pool to swim in.
Yeah, we ended up getting a swim run coach. So it was like, well, that person was well versed in the Tower 26 method, so it seemed we were still getting the work, and that's why. But I couldn't. We were singing the praises of Tower 26 ever since signing up for that, because there's something about your system that it's very approachable, but also recognizes the fact that if you want to become a faster swimmer, you have to swim faster than you're normally swimming at a variety of intervals, hopefully with good technique. And that's really the only way to get faster. You're not going to get faster by swimming slower for longer. You only get faster by putting in the work, so to speak. And the way you mix it up, once you see it, it makes a lot of sense. But for folks who aren't familiar with the program, it just looks like, oh my God, there's A workouts, there's B workouts, there's C workouts. So can you explain to us sort of what I would consider is sort of the genius of the Tower 26 program from a swim perspective?
Well, thanks. You're too kind. But if I sort of give some perspective, so I've been coaching triathletes since the early 80s, okay? So it's been a long, long time. I know the sport quite well and certainly understand the demands of the sport. Mm-hmm. And there was an opportunity I think, to provide good education and provide a format for non-swimmers, those who didn't have a swimming background in college or even high school, to follow a program and have success with it. But I'm just an old school guy. I mean, I'm an old guy, but because I'm old school in the sense that success doesn't come in 3 months. It doesn't come in, it takes a long time to make good progress. And so I think when we launched this program in 2016-ish or so, I took my 30-something years of coaching at that point and really spent a lot of time thinking through what would be approachable for someone who's not swimming with us. So once I got a programmer, Christophe, to be able to write the software for us, I wanted the user, the customer, to be able to feel like they were swimming in our workouts and having a coach with them. So everything on that platform is as if we have our eyes in you all as close as we could to that. So we created an audio file system, as you know. We have a video content system, a library of all the videos of what to do, how to do it, and so on. And then there are the workouts, and then you have the opportunity to connect with a coach if you want to. Interestingly, that aspect of the program was only used by about 50% of the members or the subscribers, which is not good, because a big portion of learning and doing well is accountability and having a coach to talk to. So I would have liked to have seen that used more, and still do. So what I did was I took my knowledge of those 30 years and broke out the triathlon training season into 5 segments. And we start segment 1. Most folks would think, okay, we're going to start segment 1 January 1 of the year, but we start segment 1 pretty much around November 1st, a week or 2 or 3, whatever it may be, after the Kona Ironman. Now there's sort of 2 Konas, right? There's Kona Nice and Kona Ironman. Right. But at the end of Kona, at some point, I decided, we have to pull the plug on the season and say, you can't, especially for this sport, you cannot train and race 12 months a year. You can, but I don't think you'll be prosperous. And I think your opportunity for success will be short-lived. And I'm not sure it'll be as enjoyable. So for us, we put a hard stop after Kona. Of course, we still have members who will race in November and December, but we decided to put the hard stop after Kona and then start our recovery phase, which is also called our technical phase. So workouts become easier. They're more instructional or highly instructional, very technical. And it's where we teach the foundations of triathlon swimming over about a 9 to 12 week time frame. And that will roll into the beginning of the new year, 2024 in this case. And then we'll start phase 2, which is, you can call it the base phase, the foundation phase, the aerobic building phase, whatever word you want to use. But it's the platform where you really develop the fitness to carry you through the season. And then we have a little bit of a sharpening phase. Then we go into our open water skill building. And then we wrap up our final phase, which is what we call the race ready phase, which is the longest phase. It's about 4 or 5 months long. And the reason it's structured that way, guys, it's because most races are sort of between May and October, right? At least in our hemisphere. So we're winding down races in November and December, and we're starting to wind up in Jan, Feb, March. But if you did a bell-shaped curve, your big bulk of races are in those 5 or 6 months. So that's our big phase of racing, where we practice all the racing skills. All the workouts are specifically targeted towards your racing opportunities. But it takes several phases to build up to that phase. So in the ideal world, or in the real coaching world, any coach that's worth their salt, you look at athletes developing them over a long period of time, not 6 weeks or 12 weeks or all of these 12-week programs that are on the market. Those programs are fine for seasoned athletes, actually, because someone that has a wonderful platform already, they can purchase a 12-week program and get ready for a half Ironman race because they've had years of training. But someone that's new to the sport, not advisable. So hence our program is built out over the entire year and built into 5 phases.
Yeah, and I really like how you have the sort of the audience of this program is not for your guy or your girl who was swimming, D1 college or had been swimming since they were 6. These are the maybe adult onset swimmers. You swam a little bit when you're a kid, and that's something that I really enjoyed, especially the little audio file, like mini podcast almost, if you will, of the swim. It kind of helps you give you some stuff to think about, a few cues there. That's a really nice piece that, again, like you said, as close as you can be from having you staring over me in the lane, actually swimming the laps, is sort of this audio file to give the cues and everything, which I found to be really helpful, and obviously like technique drills and form drills. So it is really the complete package, which I thought was great, and that's one of the reasons we were really, really drawn to it. Now, triathlon, outdoor swimming, swimrun, also outdoor swimming. How do you think about the balance of, like, we hear from some people, oh, well, I can't get outdoors because it's too cold. The pool, totally acceptable. How do you think about balancing lap swimming in the pool and open water for your race events that are held in open water?
Yeah, so let's back up to some of the comments you just made. interestingly, there's a perception, or there was, and there certainly still is, that Tower 26, that's for the professional athletes. That's for the elite athletes.
Yeah.
And
Because
probably
you guys win, so that's what's going to happen when you coach people up right, you know?
Well, I think because of my longevity in the sport and coaching several hundred pros over the years, you sort of get a stigma attached to you. But of our customers that we coach, less than 5% are pros or elite age groupers. I mean, as you know, since you were on the program, we have 4 categories, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 1 being the elites, level 2, folks with pretty good experience. And then 3 would be somebody who's, relatively new to the sport, but a developing athlete, right? And 4 would be your absolute beginners who maybe don't even know how to swim. They can swim maybe 2 or 3 minutes and they need help. Well, 75% of our market is level 3 and 4, and 25% is level 2, and approximately 18%, something like that, and 4 or 5% level 1. So the bulk are those beginners to slight intermediate. And if you want success in anything, especially in this sport, and you want longevity, you have to be careful in how you approach it and have a methodical plan and spell it out. So for us, as it comes directly to your question of, the season is winding down, or water is getting cold, or what do we do for open water? Within our 5 phases, 2 of those phases are very open water specific. So once we get to phase 4, which is what we call open water skill building, we spend about 6 weeks building out all the skills and teaching the skills that you're going to need for racing. And then during the race ready phase, which is 4 or 5 months long, those skills are constantly rehearsed in workouts. Example, if it's many folks don't have the opportunity to train in open water. Maybe they don't live close to a lake, they don't live West Coast like we do, or East Coast. They don't have an open water opportunity. All of our workouts outside of we have now we have 2 open water workouts during the summertime from May through October. But even though we have 2 open water workouts, all of our pool sessions. So our athletes will swim, our local athletes will swim 2 or 3 pool sessions a week. Some will swim 4, and they'll swim one of those open water sessions. And some don't go to the open water sessions, but in all of the pool sessions, in every single session from May through October, there's open water skill building built into that session, whether it's sighting, whether it's drafting, whatever all the tools that you need to acquire, those are taught and built into our workouts. So we wouldn't have a workout such as, let's make up an easy set, 8 times 100. Go do 8 times 100, take 20 seconds rest, and swim at 80% effort. Well, we'll do that set, but that set will have sighting built into it. It'll have race takeout speed built into it. It'll have drafting built into it. We'll go through all the demands of a race and build it into every single main set for those several months. So
I love
extremely
that.
Specific.
And I think one of the reasons, and I'm just going to die on this hill that you're a genius, Gerry, because I think what that system really shows is just like, hey, and you say it yourself, right? This is triathlon swimming. You're teaching people how to swim in open water for maximum of 2.4 miles if it's a triathlon, right? So that's a very specific thing. It isn't like, you're not training someone to cross the English Channel, and though I'm sure you could do that and probably have done that yourself. But I'm curious. So in Swimrun, I would say it's more analogous to triathlon swimming than it is to just crossing the English Channel. But because of the frequency of switching between back and forth, I'm curious what your thoughts are in terms of, is there anything from your program, which I honestly think you probably don't need to modify anything and it'll serve you well in Swimrun just because of the nature of it all. But I'm wondering if there's anything that specifically for the demands of a swim runner, if there's anything in your programs that you think you would tweak one way or another.
So interestingly, Swimrun is relatively new to triathlon, right? It's got its own thing now. But Swimrun's been around for at least my 50-something years of being an athlete. I mean, I'm 61 years old, but excuse me. If you go to any, at least on the West Coast, there are a handful, maybe 15 or 20 events all summer long from the lifeguards that are swim run. And I did a whole bunch of them when I was in college and after college. So it's been around for a long time. Just the triathlon audience has finally caught on. Now that you guys have taken it to the next level, it's lifeguard swim run on steroids now, right? I mean, the duration of the run, the duration of the swim. I mean, you guys have just amplified this thing out to the stars. So it's fantastic. Anything that we're going to do, and in this case, since it's swim run, one would want to build in specificity to their training, right? So since you're running and then you're swimming and then you're running and then you're swimming, I would create workouts that are specifically, let's say someone's going to work out 5 times a week. I would probably have a couple of workouts dedicated specifically to, I would build in sessions that will have back and forth with swim and run built into it. If I were just coaching swim run athletes only. Now, during the summertime, from May through October, when we have our 2 open water workouts a week, there is running in our sessions. And we don't do, by the way, long swims. Our longest swim is perhaps, we run, let's see, close to 50-something sessions a summer. In those 50-something sessions, there may be 3 or 4 that will swim a mile. All the others, the duration of each swim would range anywhere from 5 minutes to 8 or 9 minutes. And then you have to exit the water and run back to the start point. So there is running built into the swimming. It's just not as long as the swim. These are much shorter runs, but there is running built in. So if I were now coaching just run swim athletes and not triathletes, and the reason we have the run built into our sessions, it's simply for transition from swimming to the bike transition, right?
Sure.
But a run swim athlete, I'd build in longer runs. I'd train to the demands of the sport, coach to the demands of the sport. So I would modify what we do slightly. We probably have, I'm going to just pull a number out of the hat, 15% now, I would say, of our folks that we coach are doing swim runs.
Yeah,
And,
we know all of them.
Right. Isn't it great? And it's such a awesome community. And, I was just chatting with a few of them last week, and the whole experience is just, and the equipment and the sophistication of everything. I mean, it's next level. I mean, it's fantastic to see. But to your point, I would redesign or re-engineer some of our sessions to cater more specifically to that. You've given me an idea here.
Oh,
maybe I should.
Wow, we like when Coach Gerry gets ideas.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be good. And on that note as well, since you do race with the hand paddles and the buoy on, kind of similar during the sort of race phase or that race phase, we're doing more 60-70% of our swimming with the paddles on, just to build up the strength with the shoulders and things like that, with some deck ups involved as well, which.
And I would caution athletes getting into swim run to be careful with the paddles. I would start with small paddles and start with shorter durations and then longer durations, and then you can go to slightly bigger paddles and so on, because all paddles do are they're wonderful for certain things, but they also amplify mistakes. So you want to always keep your technical skills honed in on.
Yeah, and that parlays really great into the technical phase that you were mentioning of. This is usually in the off season, because you can take a lot of the intensity and you're swimming more endurance, that you can really take the time to slow down and work on your stroke and getting your mechanics established for the rest of the phases.
Right. So the technical phase, we just give it that name. We call it technique and recovery phase because it's the time of the season to shut down hard training, and we go through these 2.5 to 3 months of a technical build to teach and educate the mechanics of proper triathlon swimming. That doesn't mean it doesn't occur in all the other phases. In fact, it continues to occur. The emphasis shifts slightly. So right now, at the top of the pyramid, the apex is everything technique, but the base is also everything technique. So almost the entire pyramid is technique. Once we get to the foundation phase, always technical emphasis, but now we start building in more specific training demands. So each phase, there'll be a slight shift in emphasis, but there's always, it's the one sport that requires the technical demands are so high relative to riding or running in this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all grew up learning how to run. We didn't grow up, most of us, learning how to swim. And then there's nothing that we do in our day-to-day life. We walk every day, for sure. So there's some motor skill that transfers towards running. But there's nothing that we do in our daily lives that transfers to swimming. Nothing. Absolutely zero. Other than the closest thing would be taking a shower, right?
You're wet.
There's
You're
no
also
movement.
wet.
I mean, there's the hand movement of swimming. We don't do that at any time at all. So we have to learn the motor skills, the proper motor skills for swimming.
Yeah, and it's interesting, that process, I mean, we alluded to it before, it just takes a really long time. And I think, there's no hack for this.
Yeah.
It requires, consistency, unity of purpose in many ways, and the commitment to really slow down if that's your need, or get your ego in check and use smaller paddles or no paddles. And I'm curious, in your experience, and I would say, like, this is an experience I had with you. The other thing that Tower 26 does, if you're in the swim program, they have a weekly Zoom call, which I try to be on that call every week just to, hear smart people talk about swimming. I'm here for it. But like, I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what I'm asking here. I guess what I'm asking is, essentially, how do you see? I don't know.
Well, I think where you were going, I think, is that
I'm like talking myself out of the question.
No, well, riding and running, we learned to do these things as kids, right?
Yeah.
Most of us had a bicycle, and we all ran away from the neighbor next door that we didn't want to talk to. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but swimming is not something that most of us learned. Also, you're used to whatever your body weight is. You're used to managing your body weight 24/7, 130 pounds, 150 pounds, 200 pounds, whatever your weight is. Once you go into the water, 92% of that weight's displaced. So you're in a sense of weightlessness. So if I asked you to run at 8% of your body weight and put you in a weightless chamber at 8% and to ride your bike in 8%, it'll take you a while to adapt to that. Mm-hmm. And that's riding and running. That's something you already know how to do. Swimming, we don't know how to do it. And then we create a weightless environment, almost weightless environment. We don't have the dexterity, the skills, the proprioception, none of these things. So this takes a while to develop. So your great word of there's no hack. There is no hack. There are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
That's all, wherever you read that, that's the quick fix, It's the quick jargon to get somebody to join and pay some money for whatever's out there. There's no shortcut to this stuff. There's no shortcut in life. So,
yeah, it's applicable beyond. Now, there's a lot of swim knowledge, technique, advice out there, and I've certainly been confused by it. And if you're looking to improve your swim, you might be, do I need an early vertical forearm or a straight arm recovery,
high elbow,
like all this sort of stuff. What's your take on all that? And my guess is, like, there's no one size fits all recommendation, but what's your take on all those different, I guess, trends, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, so all the information that's accessible to us is there, I think, by people with good intentions, right?
Yeah.
The problem is many of us in the sport don't really have a filter to know how to, what information we should use and what we should discard. And I use an example of, because I know nothing about Russian literature. And if I went to a lecture in Russian literature, that's probably not too vogue to talk about right now, right? But if I went to a lecture on it's called Scandinavian literature, say, whoever I'm listening to is going to be the god or goddess to me, because I don't know anything. I'll sit there and with my eyes open and I'll take notes and I'll be, mind blown because I don't know anything about it. I have no filter. So our job is to try to educate you guys and have you have a filter so that when you do go to the internet and you go on YouTube and you listen to other coaches, you're able to say, okay, that's good information and maybe this stuff doesn't apply to me. So example, an Olympic coach, and every country has a handful of them, right? So take all the countries in the world, times the number of coaches, you have hundreds, thousands of Olympic level coaches. Well, if an Olympic level coach puts out a YouTube video I could just see every single swim run athlete or triathlete just, leaning into to their computer or their phone and watching this thing. Well, some of it's going to be good, but a lot of it's going to miss the mark, because 85% of swim races are 2 minutes and shorter. 95% are 4 minutes and shorter. Every single triathlon, last time I checked, how many of them are 2 minutes or shorter for the swim?
Not many.
Right. So, different demands, right? So listening to Usain Bolt's coach when he was racing on how to run your marathons, probably your marathon and an Ironman or your half Ironman run, is probably not the most sensible thing.
That's a great point.
So the same applies here. So we have to sort of learn what things can we cherry pick from these really good coaches, and then what we can't. So you look to then coaches in triathlon that have specific knowledge, whether it's Matt Dixon, whether it's somebody like myself, Brett Sutton, Mike Collins, lots of, Jim Vance. I mean, there's lots of terrific coaches. There's a gal in Texas now, Natasha, that actually was on our program for a while, that I've been seeing some of her videos lately, and they're doing really good work. So you have to find those folks, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, make sure the info is applicable to what you're looking for there. And I think don't take your marathon training advice from Usain Bolt's running coach. Probably good. I mean, he probably can get you pretty good. I would say he probably could get you, but yeah. And you wouldn't take an ultra marathon coach to learn how to run the 40 or whatever.
Exactly.
That's true.
So a very selfish question for me. It seems
this show is very self-serving.
Yeah, I guess it is self-serving. Episode 200, whatever, of self-servingness. I just feel like swimming for me, when I feel good, okay, I can swim at a Z2 or a 70%, 75, 80. I feel like I have these kind of gears, same as what you have a tempo or a Z4 on the run, and certainly in the bike as well, in the triathlon aspect. For me, where I really struggle is to get up and really give it the gas, the 90% faster, because to me, go faster means I gotta cycle my arms quicker and swim. But from everything I'm reading, it seems like slow down to speed up on some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, you have to think also, it's an endurance sport. So a big portion of, meaning swim, run, or triathlon endurance, these are events that are, what's our shortest race now generally? 40 minutes, 35 minutes for the super sprint triathlon. Your half Olympic distances are about an hour, and that's at the elite level, right? So then you go all the way up to marathons, Ironman races. So it's massive endurance. So training needs to mirror the event that you're participating in. So these swim runs that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours long, you're not going to be doing a ton of high-end training, right? So therefore, to access those gears, they're not going to be there. So it's not going to feel comfortable. It's going to be awkward. It's going to feel clumsy. But part of training needs to, you do want to stimulate that system, because it is going to help you. But it's just not going to feel good, because you don't do it often enough, as opposed to the swimmer, where, remember the statement earlier, 85% of races are 2 minutes and shorter. 85% of all swimming races at the Olympic Games are 2 minutes and shorter. 95% of 4 minutes, or 90%, whatever the numbers are, 4 minutes and shorter. Their training is high intensity, always training fast, because they just got to output for 4 minutes or less. All the hundreds in every single stroke, backstroke, butterfly, freestyle, and so on. These are races that are 40-something seconds to 60 seconds. So their demands are different, so their training is different. Our demands are very endurance-based, but we still need to stimulate that system. So we have to have cadence, like you talked about, and with cadence, we lose a little bit of distance per stroke, which I think is what you were saying. I need these long strokes. So it's a marriage of the two, and then we will do specific training to teach you how to increase cadence. You have these little things called tempo trainers, right? And you have this wonderful form goggle now that while you're swimming real time, you can actually see your cadence right through the lens. So let's say your normal cadence is 55 strokes a minute, which is sort of a range of most triathletes, 50 to 60 strokes a minute. Well, you'll do some set where you try to hit 70 strokes a minute, and it's going to feel a little awkward, and you wouldn't be as efficient. But like anything else, you'll start adapting. but you'll do short sets and you'll introduce them into your training. And then you look at your distance per stroke, which that form goggle also has in it, right? Which is data that we didn't have until recently. And you'll be able to see, okay, well, I travel X number of meters with each arm stroke. How do I not lose some of that efficiency? Let's say I traveled 1 meter with each stroke. And I then decided to increase my arm cadence to 70 in the example. And I dropped to 0.8 of a meter. Well, that's a pretty big reduction. What do I need to do to try to stay as close to 1.0, while getting a higher arm cadence? So we start training those things. And that's just coaching knowledge that gets, dispensed to the athlete and so on. That's why it's hard. This is a sport that's hard to coach yourself, swimming, at least to be good at it, to make, decent gains.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, it's as you mentioned, it's so awkward. Like whenever we've gotten sort of video analysis done of our swimming, it's always like, oh man, that's what I look like. I thought I looked way smoother. I thought I looked way cooler while I was swimming, and this does not look cool.
This is not good for the ego here.
Who looks cool swimming? I mean, it's just it's the fast swimmers, the fast runners, look at all the best in the world at anything. They just look seamless, right?
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question too, Chris. I mean, video analysis, GoPros, and have your buddy film your stroke. Have you seen? Do you advise that of your swim members, or is that something kind of for once you've gotten over the hump, that's the more you're looking for the next big speed improvement there?
Well, we have several coaches that offer that service, so I think it's super important to have that for the athletes that we're coaching that are especially not location based, meaning their eyes on them. It's because we need to see how they swim. So video analysis becomes highly important. I mean, extremely important. There's so many wonderful tools now. There's another tool out, a piece of equipment called the EO, and it's a Jamie Fuller is the inventor of this product, and it goes in your hand. It looks like a small hand paddle. There's
I've seen
wraps
this
around, and there's a sensor right here, and then there's a sensor on the side, and it's really small. And you swim with this, and it measures force. It measures a number of things, but one of the things
it's like a power meter for swimming.
It's a power meter for swimming, but it measures directional force, which is super important because if you're pushing the water or moving your hand in a direction other than what's going to give you propulsion, then we have a problem. So it's interesting seeing the data that's coming out of this, because many people have too much lateral movement, means their hands are going outside or sweeping inside or even pushing upward. So if you push upward, it means your body goes downward. If you push to the right, it means your body goes to the left. If you push to the left, your body goes to the right. So we're seeing these numbers of high percentages of force being applied in all these improper directions. So there are tools out there now that are able to help us that we didn't have, 2 years ago.
Yeah. You want to be going forward as fast as possible.
I think, that's the goal.
Forward and lift. I mean, those are the two things, that are helpful.
And you mentioned the goggles, and you feel like all the fun toys, those are saved for the bike, all your carbon fiber and that sort of stuff. But swimming now is having, you got the heads up display goggles, or what sort of value? I hear if you're specifically looking for maybe a stroke count or some sort of distance, it's helpful to keep that top of mind for you, I guess.
Yeah, so one of my prior lives, I was a magazine owner, publisher of a handful of magazines in the sport of swimming, right? Swim Magazine, Swimming World, Swimming Technique. Did that for about 10 to 15 years or so. And one of the things you need to do to be credible is to be neutral, and you don't endorse products and so on. So I've been swimming a total of 54 years. In 54 years, I've never endorsed a product, right? And I've never taken $1 from a manufacturer, and I'm completely neutral because I want to pan a product if I think it's crap. I do that in a careful way.
Oh yeah, tact for sure.
Right.
You're a pro.
But this is the first product that I'm not paid by Form, but we have built Form into our member package. And if you join our program now, you have to buy those goggles.
Wow.
And we don't get any money for it. But it is built into our package. I think that is single-handedly the most important product that's hit the swimming market in the last 50 years.
Wow.
Damn.
Because you can just get instantaneous feedback. So the coach, look at the history of swimming. The coach stands on a pool deck and he or she has a stopwatch.
Yep.
And your basic data is a time, okay? At the end of an interval, they can give you some technical help based on what they think they're seeing. And I say think we're seeing because there's refraction, right? So, so there are all these, it's really difficult. And then we can do real-time video and then pull the swimmer aside and so on. But now we never had a way in the past to get distance per stroke. Finis came out with a little tempo trainer that you can put in your swim cap and or in your goggle and listen and a cadence to listen to the beep and have cadence measured or mapped. This is all built into this goggle now, and it's real time. So, and the distance per stroke aspect is real time. So these are ways for the athlete while participating to see their data, and then for the coach that's reviewing their files, if it's a remote athlete, to also see that data. We never had that before. So it's now easier for us to coach remote athletes that are not at our location. And even though that's the case, I'm still requiring all of our members location-wise to get these goggles.
Yeah.
Better for them, better for us as coaches.
They sold 2 more pairs here.
Well, think of you know, since you've been in triathlon, and I know you mainly run Swimrun now, but you buy a bike. How much are you spending? What's the spend on a bike?
Yeah.
Several thousand.
We don't even know what they cost now, but we think it's like
what
in
you
the
tell your
tens
spouse
of thousands.
and what actually it costs are 2 different numbers, though. Usually,
over your lifetime, you're spending lifetime of triathlon probably $6,000 or $7,000 minimum. They're probably $50,000 on bikes, right?
Sure.
In swimming, if you've spent $1,000 of your entire lifetime in swimming on product, you've kind of maxed out. There's not much to buy. And now finally this genius product comes out and it's only $250. I mean, it's still nothing relative to what you would spend. It's a pair of shoes, a pair of good shoes, right? Good running shoes.
These days,
super shoes. Yeah.
So from a cost standpoint, it's worth getting.
Well, you know, Gerry, I really appreciate that perspective from you because it seems like, you know, you have all this experience, you've been coaching for a super long time. You know, I can see like there might be a temptation to be sort of resistant to change or resistant to new technology, but it seems like this stuff, hey, these are all tools that help you do a better job as a coach. And I just love the fact that you sort of embrace this new technology. Now it's built into the programs.
I'm excited. I mean, it gives me greater enthusiasm as a coach. I can now get into the athlete's data more carefully. I had also stopped swimming for a bit, and what got me back are these goggles. I can't wait to go swim now. I mean, I don't swim very much, but 3 or 4 times a week, maybe 3 times. And if I leave my goggles home, I'm pissed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, gotta leave a pair in the car, second pair in the car.
Nice. We'll be sure to check those out. Now, for your triathlon specific swim training, you mentioned, the other strokes, as we'll call them. Do you recommend or do you work those in with your athletes? Because, I can freestyle, front crawl, whatever you call it. I could not do a butterfly. I would be offending people, I'm sure, if I tried to do it.
Butterflies.
Yeah, and butterflies in general. So what do you recommend with the other strokes? And is there value in adding, if you have the techniques, and adding those to your workouts?
I think it's acquiring other skills or other strokes that would help your proprioception, would help you learn to understand and feel your body in the water more. I think this is all helpful. However, I always come back to, because I do things on a really simple level. I try not to complicate much. And I always come back to the swimmer, what I grew up as, the swimmer. Back in my era, it was different than it is now. We swam over 20 hours a week. We're swimming 20-something hours a week, okay?
Yeah.
We're swimming 60, 70 to 100K a week. So you had multiple opportunities to do all types of workouts, do all types of strokes. The triathlete or the run-swim athlete, they're going to swim 2 times a week. Let's be realistic. 1 to 2 times a week for the average, 3 to 4 times a week max for most others. And if you're a pro, 5 or 6 times a week, right? A pro that's not a good swimmer is going to swim 6 times a week. The pros that have great swimming backgrounds, they may swim 4 times a week or 5. So how do we then budget, or what do we budget into that time? what should we budget into the time? If Joe and Jenny average that are going to swim twice a week and they're going to swim for 45 minutes or an hour, should I dose out breaststroke on butterfly?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. We might do it for fun every so often, and we actually have a little bit of butterfly built into a few of our sessions during the race phase.
Right.
But it's not. It doesn't meet my criteria for a return on time investment.
Right.
So if we had more hours, absolutely. But there's so much skill to learn just on that one stroke that we're not very good at to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my,
exactly.
rationale
And again, you go back, it's like, this is triathlon swimming, and in triathlon swimming, it's the freestyle or front crawl, right? So that's what you got to optimize for, because that's what you're going to do in an event.
Right. So that's how we approach it. But I would not fault someone for dosing out some other strokes. And
well, especially in the off season as well. I mean, that might be a good time to mix it up a little bit. Same with the, get out on your mountain bike or do that kind of trail running and stuff that you're not normally doing in peak season if you're a triathlete. We have so many good coaches now that, I continue to learn from others. I listen, I read, and so I'm not going to, will never state that what I do is the thing to do. It's the thing that I know. That it's 41 years of coaching now, so at least I know something. But yeah, I'm a slow learner, but I know something. So I stick to my knitting, and I also don't talk about. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to talk about competitive swimming at the Olympic Games. It's not who we coach. We coach you guys. That's my knitting. It's what our coaches, what we teach our coaches to coach, and the audience that we target. Yeah. Love it. And I mean, you target. We'll let you go here. I know we're. But one other good thing about your program, the way you break it up with your A workouts and your B workouts for the busy. Chris and I are dads. We have jobs and families. Not everyone has a hit podcast on their hands, but we do, for now. So
it's a great podcast, by the way. I've listened to it.
Thank you. I was fishing for that, I guess. But the way you break it up and give the flexibility is really nice. So I got my available time. I'm going to pull my A workouts, make sure those are the ones that I'm getting in guaranteed every week. And then, hey, I have some extra afternoon. I can tack on a B or a C workout. It's a real flexible solution that you've devised.
Well, so let's go into the reasoning for that, because the reality is we have to look at the audience, right? Many people are doing swim run, but some may only be able to train 6 hours a week. Some may be able to train 16 hours a week. So the person that can put 16 hours a week into their training regime, well, they can do all the workouts, the 2 A's, the B, and the C workout. But the structure is set up in such a way that, hey, if you can only make 1 or 2 sessions a week, well, those are the A sessions. You don't compromise, and a B session is just what it is. It's a B. It's not an A. Yeah. So you do the B sessions if you're only going to swim 1 or 2 times a week. Then if you can swim 3, you do the A session, Then you add in the B if you can swim 3 times a week, and then you add in the C session if you can do 4 times a week. So it's structured in a way to accommodate the needs of the reality of our audience. We're not professional, well, small sliver of professional athletes, but everybody else, like yourselves, jobs, family, real demands.
Yeah. Real hit podcast. That's also real demand, Gerry. You know all about that with your own podcast. One thing, and I told this to you in person when we were working together. Back in 2021, that what I found really valuable was sort of surrendering to the coaching and not overthinking, or just take it as it is and just do the work. And that's something that historically has been really hard for me, to not like overanalyze. Oh, it says to do 2 hours, so let me just do 2:15 because I have grit or whatever. But just surrendering to what it says, what for the good and the bad. I was wondering if that's something that you can speak to, just sort of the importance of almost like trusting the process.
So, sort of a macro perspective, it's a wonderful question, and it's a difficult question because we're talking about trust. Okay, trust comes with time. It's like any relationship. You start off, you have your partners now, but when you first began dating, well, you're a little tepid, right? And then over time, you build trust, you build confidence, and then you decided, okay, I want to get married or have a lifelong partner. So it takes time. This sport is an interesting sport, triathlon. I'm not sure about I don't have as much knowledge as the coaching in run swim. But in triathlon, it's one sport, man, the athletes change their coaches at a high frequency level. And I think the reason for that is so much of the coaching is remote. So it's easy to leave a coach because you actually don't even have to tell them anything. You can just shut off your payment, right? But that doesn't, I'm not sure. And also, now there are good reasons for leaving coaches too, because the sport is evolving and coaches are getting better. But in the beginning, the coaching wasn't that terrific. The coaches didn't have a ton of experience. They were new. They were just folks like all of us that said, hey, I kind of love what I do and I want to teach somebody else how to do it. But it doesn't mean you're very good at teaching, and it doesn't mean you knew what you were teaching also. But that's evolved. And so we're at a much higher standard than we were 10 years ago, needless to say 20 or 30 or 40 years ago when I started. But the surrendering process is a function of trust, and it does take time. And, there are many, there's some athletes who have difficulty with trust. And because also it's remote, it makes it more difficult. It's easier. Look at the internet, for instance, or social media. The amount of nasty things that are said on social media, comments, right? And I call these keyboard cowboys. It's really easy to say nasty stuff or type nasty stuff because you're behind your computer and you're on your keyboard and you're pounding away.
Yeah.
I would think 95 or close to 100% of what's typed on these social media platforms, you would never tell somebody that in person. Yeah. So you build different relationships in person, right? You see your coach daily. You talk to her. You talk to him. They call you up if you didn't show up. They ask you that's a real relationship besides just coaching. That builds a bond. So athletes stay with coaches. I mean, Michael Phelps is a perfect example. He's had one coach his entire career, right? So, swimmers have very few coaching changes. It's how the sport's structured, and they started off with coaches from kids. Every program has a coach. Different with triathlon. It's evolving, though. We're having more coaches, and now we're starting off with young youth, and youth are getting coached from the very beginning. So the change is taking place, but it's a long-winded answer to tell you that it does take time. It takes trust, and it's easier to walk away when you don't have a face-to-face relationship with somebody.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Uh-huh. Well, we don't want to finish on such a heavy note. So,
well, I know this season, Chris and I were sort of taking a break from our regularly scheduled coaching thing for the off season, quote unquote, and we're both looking forward to joining the online plan to get at Tower 26. So
yeah, we're coming back.
Look for the Low Tide boys on there.
Yay.
But
we apologize in advance
for dominating so much of your time. You're gonna hear Swimrun more than you probably really want to in the next couple of months.
You guys should hop onto those 2 p.m. calls that Jim runs. At a minimum, you'll be entertained.
Well, I'm telling you, when I was a member, I worked with my schedule. I could be on them every week. I think they were like on Tuesdays or something.
Tuesdays
and
too.
Always got a nugget. I mean, I text Chipper. I was like, man, you can't believe what Gerry just said. It just blew my mind. It's like every time there was just like five to 10 nuggets of just like solid coaching, solid intel. And again, when people would come to us, it's like, I want to become a better swimmer. Instantly was like Tower 26. Just go there, just listen to what they say. And so we're excited to come back and stick around a little bit longer this time, hopefully. But Gerry, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us about Tower 26 and sort of swimming for triathlon and swimrun. Really appreciate you, and thank you for everything that you do.
Well, you guys are too kind because, in the coaching world, swimming sort of hits in triathlon and run swim. It sits at the bottom ring. So to have me back on, I'm really appreciative of it. I know our other coaches, Jim and everybody else, is also super happy for it. So thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah. And tower26.com, you can find the link for the book there, one-on-one coaching, online coaching, whatever you're looking for. Their own podcast as well with Coach Jim Lube, who you'll how can you not
can't
love
miss him.
Jim? You can't. Yes,
you
will
can't
not
miss him.
You'll know when Jim Lube's on the show.
I do have to give Jim a plug here because he's been running those 2 p.m. sessions now. It's for, I think we're 4 years into it. If we don't miss him, it's weekly at 2 o'clock. He does such a tremendous job. It's like anything else. Once you do it enough, he's in a rhythm now. And every week he comes up with something to talk about that's so informative. Last week he had these guys on that are, they have a gym close to where Jim lives, and where they coach all these high performance athletes, these professional football players, professional baseball players, and so on. And it was fascinating listening to the testing that they're doing of these athletes. Simple things, just such as balance, pressure testing. I mean, all types of things. And Jim just comes up with this every week. There's something new, and he gets these experts in every category. And then we have a swimming expert that's Jack. I mean, I'm on there, listening in, but it's mainly Jack does all the swim analysis. 15, 20 minutes to talk on some topic. I mean, it's really a golden nugget of education. So I'm giving Jim a plug.
Really
I apologize for taking more of your airtime.
And a community,
no. I
great
love
community builder as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tower 26 community, the one that's hanging out in the swim run scene is top tier in terms of good people. So you're doing something right down there.
Thank you.
But yes, Gerry, thanks again. And we won't make it another 3 years without talking with you. We should make it an annual thing at the very least.
Thank you, guys. We'll make it come visit us sometime again.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Have a lovely Thanksgiving.
You too.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
too. Of course, yes.